Building a business is hard in itself, and I can talk for days about building successful businesses, the systems, the structure, but you're gonna have to subscribe to my channel to hear more about all of that, because today we're gonna talk about all of the key factors that allowed me to do that while raising babies. I'm Laurie, your biggest small business cheerleader, and I am also the creator of the Momtrepreneur Planner, an all-encompassing notebook that helps mom entrepreneurs keep it all together. Look, I like to say that I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, slinging stickers and pencils at school on the playground. But even at 19 years old, I opened my first brick and mortar business with my now husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. In fact, we ran 3 separate businesses before we ever even had kids. But once I had my first son, almost 9 years ago, everything changed. It wasn't just my time that was severely cut in half, it was my mental load as well. I wasn't just worrying about myself anymore. I had a laundry list a mile long of everything I had to worry about for him too. And it only grew as he's gotten older because now there's sports and school and everything else in between. So as I sat down to brainstorm and actually prepare for this topic, I don't think that even I realized the magnitude of all that I do, mostly up here, and all that I constantly remind myself of just to keep myself working productively. And I want to be clear, it's not what I do to keep myself busy, but to keep myself actually productive and constantly moving forward. So I'm going to share with you 21 of my top hacks for being a mom entrepreneur. And when I say hacks, they're really no secret. I bet you know most of these already. It's more about always reminding yourself of them and always keeping them in the forefront of your mind. Number 1, get clear. Clarity is everything. Take inventory. Take inventory of your time. Just like your money, if you aren't checking in with your money, it's hard to know where it's going. Your time is the same exact thing. If you're not taking inventory on where you spend your hours, you're going to be confused. You have to get really clear. Number 2, put time on your side. Stop playing the victim. The number 1 thing I hear all the time is, there's just never enough time. I never have enough hours in the day. I wish I just had more time. When you use phrases like these, you are playing the victim. Stop playing the victim. Put time on your side. This has been one of the hardest things that I have struggled with, because I'm always like, hurry up, we're running out of time, right? Yelling at my kids to get out the door. But when I started putting time on my side, I realized we were rushing because we weren't getting up early enough. We weren't getting ready early enough. And when you start putting time on your side and stop playing the victim and catching yourself when you're using those words, and instead of saying we're running late, saying, you know what, we probably should have gotten up earlier. You take that victim mentality out and you start realizing that we are in charge of our time. We are the makers of our time. And when you realize that and are careful with the words that you use, your time actually begins to expand. It is an amazing, amazing thing. So put time on your side. Number 3, relieve the mother mental load. I cannot stress this enough. We carry so much in our brains that we have so much gray matter, wasted time, all throughout our day, just trying to remember what we have to do and what's next. So relieve your mother mental load. Brain dump. Brain dump is simply taking a few minutes. I do this probably every week, if not every day, but take that time to just brain dump everything out of your brain and onto paper. Once it's on paper, you have a more clear path to how you can prioritize it and organize it to better suit your time. You can also work on delegating some of those tasks that are not necessary for you to do. But when it's all in your brain and jumbled, it's easier for us to just do it than try to get somebody else to help us. So brain dump early, brain dump often. Number 4, like I said, prioritize. Once you brain dump, you are able to prioritize that list. You're able to get a better understanding of what's important. This also goes back to our time, because so often we say, I just don't have time for that. And really, it's not time that we lack, it's priorities. And when you hear yourself say, I just don't have time for that, and you say instead, that's just not a priority right now, it's a sucker punch to the gut, and you'll start better understanding your time, and even more, better understanding your priority. Number 5, delegate. This one is so hard, again, for us moms because we carry it all in our brain, and it's hard to delegate when you don't even know what you're doing, right? So once you brain dump and prioritize, it's easier to delegate. But one of the biggest tips that I have when it comes to delegating tasks is to make sure that you are communicating effective task completing. And what I mean by that is if you are going to delegate a task, and the example that I have is, one of the tasks that I asked my husband to help me with is giving the boys a bath. And he's amazing. My husband is absolutely incredible. And he'll give the boys a bath. And then later on, I'll go and there's clothes on the floor and everything's a mess in the bathroom. Well, that task was not effectively completed. Yes, he gave the boys a bath, but as moms, we know that you pick up the clothes and you put them in the hamper and you wipe things down so that it's back to square one. But if you're delegating tasks and not communicating effective task completing, sometimes it defeats the point. So make sure that you're not only delegating, but you're communicating that as well. Number 6, set boundaries. This is so important. Setting boundaries isn't just outward boundaries towards other people, which is important, but also for yourself. Setting boundaries can look like saying no. It can look like taking a back seat. Not always being team mom, which kills me. But setting boundaries can look like a lot of things. But saying no to certain circumstances, putting yourself in certain spaces with certain people that bring negative energy towards you. So set these boundaries up front for yourself. Make sure you know when to say no. Are the things that you're saying yes to important? Do they meet your goals and your visions? Is it something that's actually going to help you or something that's going to hold you back? Remember, every time we say yes, we're saying no to something else. So when you say yes to something, ask yourself, what am I saying no to? Oftentimes, that's where the magic lies. And that, again, is a big part of number 7. Say no. Say no often, and not to the good stuff. Say yes to the stuff that fulfills you. But start getting good at saying no to the things that don't. Oftentimes we tend to say yes because we're good at things. We're good organizers. We're good planners. We're type A personalities often. So it's easy to say yes to the things that are fun for us. But it's really getting clear again with yourself and making sure that it aligns with your goals. One of my examples is that I love to create invites and flyers. And when people ask me to do it, I would always say yes. But I asked myself, what am I saying no to when I say yes to doing that? And when I got really clear on that, I realized that I was taking time that I could have focused on my business or on my kids. And then it becomes a lot easier to say no. Number 8, get support. Ask for help. We talked about delegating, but before you can delegate, you have to ask for help. And oftentimes we're too proud. We're too in control of needing to be in control of everything that we don't allow ourselves to get the help we need. We don't have to be super mom. One of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur, when you first start to be an entrepreneur, a big reason is that so we could spend more time with our kids, right? But the way I like to look at it is I spend the time that I want to spend with my kids. I'm not held back by a 8 to 5 schedule. I'm not held back by having to ask a boss when I can spend time with my kids. I get to choose that. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to make sure that I get the support that I need to build my business in the way that I want while still being able to choose when I get to spend my time with my kids. Number 9, be proactive. Plan ahead. Like I mentioned earlier, oftentimes we will blame time, not having enough time when we're rushing, but really it's just our lack of planning ahead, not getting up early enough. This is the same with everything. You have experienced it, I'm sure, when Monday morning you're racing out the door, you're rushing, and you get in the car and all of a sudden there's no gas, right? And you're like, oh. Plan ahead, be proactive, avoid these circumstances by doing things in advance. Every Sunday, whether I need gas or not, that is my day to fill up my tank. The same thing goes with birthdays, Christmas, holidays. Guys, they come at the same time every single year, yet often we're left waiting till the last minute to get things done. By simply being proactive and planning ahead, you can relieve so much of your stress and overwhelm by simply thinking about it in advance. So get yourself together and plan ahead. Number 10, one of my favorites, is use your power lists. So what the heck are power lists? Power lists are brain dumped lists of things that we do or use regularly. So I will give you a few examples. One of my favorite power lists that I use is my family's meal planning list. So I have a list of all of our family's favorite meals, so dinners particularly. And this is all of the dinners that I cook or my family cooks. And every time I go to plan my meals every Sunday, I sit down and I use this power list because it's easy. It's an easy list of everything. So each item has all of the ingredients, what I need. So it's easy to also order my groceries. Other power lists include my weekly planning power list. So what this is, it's basically a brain dump of all of the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual tasks that I need to complete for all the facets of my life. For my 3 businesses, the Momtrepreneur Planner, Gloria's Garden, and my cabin in Big Bear, and my home life for myself, my boys, my family, or home. So all of them combined create my weekly planning power list. So every day I know all of the daily tasks that I have to do for all of my businesses and my home life. Every week, I know which tasks I have to do on Monday, which tasks I have to do on Tuesday for all facets of my life. Using these power lists takes away so much of that mental weight. More than that, though, it relieves a lot of that gray space in your day where you're just trying to figure out what you have to do. And by relieving that gray space, you are saving yourself so much time by simply not having to think of what to do and checking it off a list instead. Number 11, create lasting habits. Now, this can be a hard one because just like exercising and eating healthy, habits can be hard to create, not just create, but actually make them last. And so how do we create lasting habits? One of my favorite books that I always recommend is Atomic Habits by James Clear. He gives so many tips and tricks on how to create lasting habits that stick. Now, if you're like me and you would buy planners all the time just to open them, stick with them for maybe a month or 2 and fall off, don't beat yourself up. I used to beat myself up. Don't beat yourself up because it's not the planner. Unfortunately, it's us. But the beautiful thing about that is that when it is you, you can also change it, right? Getting good at planning is getting good at the habit of planning, just like anything else. So you want to be able to create these lasting habits that stick around, creating a routine for your family. Oftentimes I would say, my life is too chaotic to create a routine. The fact of the matter is that my life was too chaotic because we didn't have a routine. Just because you're an entrepreneur and you might work different hours than most people doesn't mean that you don't have to have a normalized routine, whatever that looks like, to make sure that your family is sticking to what it needs to do. In fact, kids thrive off of routines. So creating those lasting habits like routines and all the different things throughout your day can be extremely, extremely beneficial to you, especially if they're the good ones. All right, this is a lot. So number 12 is important. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Remember that some beats none. So if you got one minuscule thing done today, give yourself that grace and remember that at least you did something. It is better than doing absolutely nothing, especially when it comes to your business. Remember that one of something is better than sitting and not having a business at all and waiting until the time is right. And speaking of giving yourself grace, number 13, learn to overlook the mess. The mess, right? There's dishes, there's laundry, there is a mess all over the house, and our brains are wired to want to clean it up first before doing the important things that we need to do for our business and our family. it is almost imperative that we have to do it. But one of the best habits or skills that you can develop is learning to overlook the mess. Eventually, you will learn to be proactive and clean up the mess as you go. It took me a long time to get there. But in the meantime, while you're developing these things, just learn to overlook the mess. One of my favorite quotes is from J.K. Rowling, who was being interviewed. She is the author of the Harry Potter books, a book collection that has reaped in billions, yes, billions with a B for her. And one of the things in this interview that stood out was her being asked how she did it all, writing these books while being a mom and dealing with everything. And she said, I just learned to live in squalor. She learned to overlook the mess, and she has built an empire because she was able to do that. All right, number 14, never give up. Now, this one is a hard one for me because there are certain things that you should give up on. You should give up on binging. You should give up on going on Pinterest rabbit holes and Instagram and TikTok rabbit holes for hours and hours at a time. But when I say never give up, I'm talking about on your dreams. Never give up on your dreams. If anything, get really good at pivoting. Get really good at restarting. Understand that the faster you learn to restart, the better it's going to be for you. We're going to fall off. We're going to have those hard times. But the faster you get back on is what defines you and your business and is what is going to propel you into the future. So never give up. Number 15, change who you surround yourself with. This one I cannot stress enough. Remember, you are the collection of the 5 most people you hang out with. You become those 5 people. And so take a look at who you're hanging around with the most and determine, is this who I want to be? Are these 5 most people the people that I want to be? You need to change your surroundings if it's not. And this can be such a game changer for you. Number 16, stop comparing. Goodness gracious, I know how hard this one is. Instagram, Pinterest, all of social media shows us all the things that we want to be, all the things that we would love to have. But what it causes is it causes us to compare. And when we compare ourselves, we vibrate at a much lower level, a very negative level. So instead of comparing, do yourself a favor. Stop looking. Delete. Get rid of it. Don't compare. Do your best to eliminate. Just stop looking at those things. If you find yourself in that comparison mode way too much, trust me, you can get back to it later once you feel better and have a stronger mental fortitude about it. But in the meantime, delete. Remove it from your vision. Get it out. Get rid of it. Stop comparing. Number 17, relieve the mom guilt. Again, another extremely, extremely hard one. And I will say, I don't think this one ever really goes away, but you have to, again, build that skill of relieving yourself of the mom guilt. The one way that I do this best is I remind myself, who am I doing this for anyways? Because often I will find myself being really guilty when I'm working on a project or working away from home, working away from my kids. And I have that mom guilt that kicks in saying like, you should be there for your kids. You should be spending time with your kids instead of working on this. But when I realize why I'm doing it in the first place, well, I'm doing this to give my kids a better life. I'm doing this to set my kids up for a better future. Knowing your why reminds you of why you're doing it in the first place and will help you relieve a little bit of that mom guilt. Number 18, be mindful of your words, not just to others, but to yourself. Your words are like a magic wand, and you have to be extremely careful. What you say is what you get, basically. What you say about other people is what you get yourself. What you say about yourself to yourself is what you get. We don't want to focus on the negative. We want to focus on the positive. So be extremely mindful of your words and what you say. Number 19, this was a game changer for me as well. If you have not read the book, The 4 Agreements, Go read it. The 4 Agreements is such a powerful book. And one of the things that you need to understand is that you cannot take things personally. When people talk about you, it is not about you. It is a reflection about themselves. So don't take things personally. It relieves so much off of yourself too when you really get a good grasp on this and don't take things personally. You just let it sort of roll off of you. Number 20, visualize regularly. Now, this one was another one that was hard for me to get started on because I didn't quite understand how to do this. But really, all it takes is getting an understanding of something that you want for yourself. And what's most important are the feelings that you want to feel from having this thing or this situation. And what I started doing was using my time in the shower, which is usually where I have my best ideas. It's a peaceful time for me where I can sit and relax. And so what I do is I simply sit and I visualize that situation of me either having what I'm desiring or that instance of when you receive it, and you just sit with that idea, sit with those thoughts, but most importantly, sit with the feelings of having that. And when you sit with that just for 5-10 minutes, visualize yourself having it, being there, being present in that moment, it becomes a powerful, powerful setup for yourself because our subconscious brains start to work and start trying to figure out the how. We don't need to know the how, but when you visualize regularly, your brains start to do the work for you, and that is where manifestation begins. Number 21, last but most importantly, give gratitude often. Now, gratitude is a very, very important thing because we cannot live in comparison and be grateful. You can't do it. You cannot live in fear and gratitude. You cannot live in negative thoughts and gratitude. So when you give gratitude often, you're eliminating these other things. You're focusing on what is good that you have. And when we focus on what is good, it grows. So give gratitude often. All right, so those are 21 of my best mom entrepreneur hacks for growing your business while raising babies. I would love for you to join me here by hitting that subscribe button, like this video, and let me know in the comments, which of these 21 do you need to work on?